All right. We got a great podcast to start today. You like our new intro? I have two that were
I was
attached.
surprised.
You were surprised? You were surprised?
Yeah, like Christmas morning.
Like Christmas morning. I have another version, different song. So we'll see next time if you like that one better. See, we're getting tech savvy here. You know what I mean?
Wild.
High quality. All right. We have a great guest on. We have the Delbarton offensive coordinator as well as the strength and conditioning coach there, Luke Caroziola. Am I saying it right? Let me see if I'm butchering it. Here, hold on. Chiarolanzio. That's right. Chiarolanzio. We'll let him.
We'll let Coach explain it too. That way, you know.
Or is it chiarolanzio? We're gonna
find out.
Well, he's been the offensive coordinator there, and they've had some great seasons the last few years. Taking it to the state championship game. This year they had another remarkable season as well. Again, yeah, fantastic program. Have some really big time recruits. A few played with us in our 7-on-7 club for a few years, and without further ado, let's bring on. Listen, I'm just gonna call you Coach Luke. All right, I'm just calling you Coach.
Coach, you gotta give us the proper pronunciation.
I don't know what I like more, the music intro or that butchering of my last name.
That's phenomenal. Listen, Coach, I'm sure you've gotten worse, so we're okay.
No, oh yeah, that was actually the proper way. It's actually chiarolanzio, but everyone just calls me Chi, like Coach Chi.
Chi.
Yeah, but that was good. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Coach, go into your background, playing, coaching, and if you want to go into strength and conditioning background too as well, yeah, that's up to you.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, dive right into it.
Yeah, so I grew up in this area. I grew up in Florham Park. I actually went to Delbarton. It wasn't my first choice. I was going to go to Hanover Park, but you know, my parents kind of like, listen, you have a talent for football. You're gonna go to Delbarton. So I graduated in 2011. I eventually went to Lafayette College, played 4 years there, started 4 years there. Had a chance to go to the NFL. Unfortunately, got hurt, and my next route was I'm going to get into coaching. My first season coaching college was 2015 at FDU, right here in Florham, and I loved coaching there. And like I recommend like every person who wants to get into coaching, go do Division III. For a year because it is something else. It was definitely an eye opener for me. Equipment manager, also tight ends coach, also this, that, the other thing, and it was
50 really other hats you got to wear.
Exactly. So it was a good experience, and then I was able to go back to Lafayette for about 2 seasons under my former staff, and then the new staff, which was John Garrett at the time, and I learned a lot there, and really expanded my game from just offensive line to passing game to coaching receivers to coaching running backs, things like that. And that really helped me a lot. And then in 2017, I was actually recruiting at Delbarton, and coach said, there's a job opening here. And I was like, you know what, let me just apply. I always wanted to come back to high school, especially at this level at Delbarton, and it worked out. And that was 2017. I was the O-line coach, and then after that I was OC, and then I became the head strength conditioning coach. So the rest is kind of history, and I think I'm really happy here. So it's been great. So that's a little bit about myself.
Oh, it's great. That's great history. That's very diverse coaching background. There's a lot of different areas that you went to D3, you went to FCS, and then back to high school. Talk about when you came to Delbarton, what it was like, and kind of because you guys have really like Delbarton was always a really good program, but they played a lot of weaker teams for many, many years, and then that shift happened in the Super Conference where they put you guys in the stronger with all the stronger teams. And there was probably some adaptation time period, but you guys really like have adapted really well and become obviously one of the premier programs. So talk about kind of from when you got there, what some of the things that you're really able to improve and enhance. Hello,
Can you hear us, Coach?
Coach, can you hear us? Derek, you can hear me, right?
Yeah. I can hear you.
And we lost Coach.
I'll tell you what, like you said, the diverse background, right? Dude, going from being Delbarton player.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, there you go, Coach.
Wi-Fi at this place, you never know. My bad.
No,
You're all good. Don't worry about it. You're good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard my question. Probably did you hear it? Okay.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, round two. So what I said was, when you got there in 2017, I said Delbarton had originally was a dominant program, had played like weaker opponents for the most part.
Right.
Dominant program with that. And then they moved you guys into the super conference, moving against a lot more powerful programs. And there's probably some adaptation time period there.
100%.
And then you guys did that. It obviously had become, one of the better programs in the state of New Jersey. Talk about what you kind of really did from, when you got there in 2017 to really kind of help evolve the program.
I mean, when I got there in 2017, it was the second year we were playing in this conference, and I was like, whoa, this is a lot different than I was in school. I'm like, I don't even know. I was kind of like, whoa, like this is different. And it took a little bit of learning from my perspective. If you watch some of our games, the scores weren't great, but if you watch the first half of games, they were competitive. And then quarters 3 and 4, not so much. So we had to do a lot of different things. We tried to update this and Coach Bowers did a lot of this stuff as well. Just shout out to him. And we tried to make this more of a college model. And eventually by 2020, we went completely one side of the ball. So that was the first step, I think, of kind of catching up with some of these schools. I think that allowed us to be much more complex offensively, defensively, and then also just focus their conditioning base, and just be able to hang around with some of these teams. I think that was internally step one, and kind of revamping our strength conditioning program as well. But that was kind of the biggest change that we came up with. It allowed us to do a lot more. Our quarterbacks, we were doing more with them. You're coaching one side of the ball now. I mean, I was basically helping O-line.
His Wi-Fi is definitely not good.
And helping D-line. So it's a lot more of a college model.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing that we tried to do is just go one way and then build from there and then try to attract more athletes into our school. That's the best thing that we're trying to do. That kind of made us, rise up a little bit as a program.
And Delbarton is obviously known as a fantastic educational high school. One of the best, probably one of the most expensive too, right? In kind of the I guess parochial private school space. And I'm sure that poses some challenges when bringing players in, right? Talk about maybe how you guys had to. I don't know if you had to adapt at all or, to continue to get players in, because that's the hardest part about the conference you guys play in is the level of competition, right? You obviously have to have great athletes to be able to compete in that conference. So talk about some of the things you guys had to do there. Or we lose you maybe again. Derek, are you there? Okay, you're there.
Coach's Wi-Fi, that's rough. You would think all that tuition.
Jeez. I guess the tuition hike is in play here. A tuition hike is in play for better Wi-Fi. They need a T1 line. You know what a T1 line is? T1 line is like
that like the hard
if you run like a tech firm, like that's like using a lot of like
right, like you're constantly doing whatever.
That. Yeah. You probably need those guys need like probably a bazillion T1 lines, but there's you need a T1 line that makes everything fly. Like if you had a T1 line in your house, you would start talking, and it would just it would be like literally like you're watching, I don't know, like a football game. You know what I mean? How it's fluid
Right.
and smooth.
Right.
That's what a T1 line will do. You know, it's but you know what? I think some of the schools too have like you're in a school, so the if they have the brick exterior, and if you're in one of the dungeon areas in the brick
Oh
exterior,
yeah, you're shot.
you're shot, dude.
Listen, and I was teaching at the time when like everybody was like updating and trying to like, oh, we're running do this or we're doing this. Like, so to watch that like in and out of it, of like people trying to like rewire their buildings or set up Wi-Fi here or that. It's like, oh, this you can get it here, but you can't get it here. Like that constant back and forth. Coach, you're good, buddy.
Yeah, I phoned in.
That's
I don't know,
might be the better way.
I apologize for that. This should be good. So
you guys got to.
It's all right, Coach. Don't worry. We understand the tuition
now because
we must not be paying our Wi-Fi bills. So something,
It's on, Coach. But listen, hey, $23 million into a new state-of-the-art athletic facility. I'll take.
You can't have Wi-Fi in my dang office, No, definitely. Like our tuition is high, and a part of that is just what we offer here in terms of the small classroom settings, the facilities, just everything. And I think it kind of turns people away sometimes, and they don't understand how much financial aid we actually have to give out. And a lot of our students, just normal non-student athletes are on a financial aid. A lot of our student athletes are on financial aid. So I think what we try to do, especially now that New Jersey doesn't care about recruiting rules or anything, is just get that information out in front of people. Not that they cared before at all.
Well put, Coach. Well put.
Yeah.
Well put.
So what we try to do is more, getting our information out there. Most kids, that we take academically fit the bill. Maybe they're not the greatest students, but they can handle what we are offering here, and we can't lose that. We can't just start accepting kids who can't handle the work, because it's not fair to the kid. It's not fair to the school. And then financially, we are definitely trying to fundraise specifically for financial aid, specifically for athletes, specifically for that. We don't give out scholarships here, but that's something that, we're trying to do in our boosters and just give that information out. I think once people come onto campus and our student athletes understand what they're getting into, they love it here, and we don't lose many kids at all. I don't think we've lost any of our players because they love being here and they love the experience here. But we definitely had to change, and all of our other sports are very successful. So, it's not like we can bring in 10, 15 football only players. No, we're probably bringing in 6, 7, and then, making sure, that those guys are going to contribute. What level are they going to contribute? Are they going to be freshman varsity players? Are they going to be a project? So it's difficult, but we're definitely, doing a great job with that. And every year is different, and it's tough. That's where you have to keep winning, and there's so many other successful programs in our conference that, they cost less. Academic requirements are not as high, and that's nothing against them. It's just the reality of the situation. And they all do a great job in football too. So it's just trying to kind of navigate that on our end and getting the best 5 to 8 kids a class. And then you have the kids who just apply, who play maybe 3 sports still. You got to find those kids. So it's definitely, a huge impact for us. I think players is one of the biggest things on any roster. The school is going to sell itself here. I mean, this is one of the best schools in the country. We offer so much, and, we're just keep on getting better. And I think once we kind of develop that, relationship with the youth, relationship, and just getting our name out there, it's going to be good, really good for us. So,
with strength and conditioning component of what you guys are doing, how important is that, and kind of how do you set up your program to really, maybe help them make up for some areas where they may be lacking?
Yeah. So, that is a huge thing for me, and my, why I got into that. My career changed as a player when I changed my body, and really obsessed with strength conditioning. I think it is a not lost art, but just, I think there's so much, for lack of a better word, just like misunderstanding about it.
And what I try to do here is make this a college level strength conditioning program. They're lifting 3-4 days a week. We're tracking their data. We're tracking their nutrition, because that has to be our edge. Our edge isn't going to be showing up on Saturdays and not doing anything for a year. This is a year-round strength conditioning program. If you play another sport, you're still lifting 2-3 times a week. That has to be something that's at the forefront of us, and that's been a big change. We had a great strength and conditioning program before. This building has made it so much better and easier. We kind of had like a 1,500 square foot weight room that we would try to fit our whole team in, and now this space gives a lot more. But that's our edge, and I believe that we have almost 100% attendance in the off season, and it's not mandatory, but it's just understood that we have to have and change kids' bodies. We just aren't going to pick 15 new kids that are going to come in and be ready to go. So we have to control what we can control, and we believe in our strength conditioning program, nutrition, etc. So
yeah, that's a huge part in being able to be successful. And you guys have a gigantic weight room now, which is awesome. Tremendous.
Year two, right? You're going on with that?
Year 2. Yeah, year 2. And it's been good. I wish it was even bigger.
That's right. Well,
you're gonna piss off a lot of high school football coaches with that one, dude. Because, like you said, even your weight room before that was better than most. So
yeah, we're very blessed here for that, and it was a need, and I had to pitch why we needed it to the school, and why we were fortunate to have many donors to donate, and because I train not just football, I train every sport. So
right.
And I have a staff, so I had to kind of get everybody on board, which is good. So yeah, but yeah, it's nice space. I got a little office in here too. So
do you how do you coordinate the different teams? Do you have football go separately? Do you have like kids who are multi-sports? Do have come at a different time? How do you coordinate that?
So I base it all around the sports season. So let's say I'm a football player who also plays baseball. All right. So his year, I do it by summer to summer. His year is summer. He's training specifically for football. It's preseason for him. He's here 3 times a week for 8 weeks in the summer. That's basically what his calendar is. Fall, he's in season. And then winter, he's in an off-season group because he's preparing for baseball. So now, once we get back from Christmas break, he'll be 4 weeks with just football players. Then he'll transition into more of like a preseason group. So I did it more like that. But he's still lifting with football players. He might just be doing a little bit different of a lift. And then spring season, he'll lift in season, then summer resets. So it depends on how many sports you play. The hardest ones, I would say, are like kids who do fall and winter sports, because they're back to back and they've lost so much ground, and then you got to make it up in the spring and the summer. But I try to keep the football guys together as much as possible, because I think that's super important in building the culture of the team and things like that. And then the big thing I tried, and I gave a presentation at a clinic last spring, is in-season lifting. I think it's like, I don't lift in season. Like, we lift heavy 2-3 times a week, because I think that's where you have the most amount of time with the kids. It's about a 12-week window that we try to map out. And I'm trying to convince a lot of the other coaches here how important that is to do in season. So,
yeah, I think that's an important thing. Being able to continue to get stronger, not lose that strength, especially when you get to the playoff season, where some teams are going to lose that aren't doing that.
Right.
It gives you an advantage, and then continuing to do speed elements to keep your speed up, right? So they don't lose that as they get late into the season, which also is another area that starts to drop off.
Right.
Do they have so that's always tough with practice, or the practice,
and especially with football, because the time demands are so much more so than a lot of things. And like Coach, what a lot of people I don't think really understand is like football may be their one sport at Delbarton, but even that 2 sport that those guys are playing, they'd be the one at their public school, right? So those guys are vested and very much like kind of in that mode of, hey, we know this is going to benefit us, Coach. How can you help me find the time to make it work?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all about managing their time. And the beauty of football season is very structured the weeks. It's Groundhog's Day every single week. So it's like we're going
Right.
to lift Monday. JV guys are going to play their JV games, and they're going to lift on Tuesday. I think that's super important, so than any group.
Super important.
Is we
Super
lift
important.
the crap out of our JV kids. And it's like you will miss meetings on Tuesday, and you're going to miss some of practice because we value the lifting more than ever because they're not going to play that much on Saturday. Then you get out to practice, and it's like you played Monday JV game, you better be there on Tuesday.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, that is an overlooked group within
Right.
all of high school football because some teams don't have the luxury of those guys that can miss practice. Because if they miss practice on Tuesday, varsity doesn't have a scout team.
Right.
Or some of those guys that are they're pretty important parts when it comes to that varsity game. Now those guys miss a lift, and that's a problem.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And like with us too, our depth, we might need you next year. You might be playing JV as a sophomore. Next year, you're penciling as a starter. So shame on us if we're not trying to develop you in practice, not trying to develop you in the weight room during the season because we're not bringing in 20 new kids. We're not. And we have what we have, and it's up to us to kind of develop them. So, 100%.
Do you in season wise, do you lessen the time period and sets and reps that they're in there, or just kind of focus on getting the explosion in and getting the stuff that they need to get in core wise and then getting them out, or you were focused on injury prevention, combination of both? What are you focused on that?
Great. So it's a little combination of both. So my philosophy is, why did we just hand clean, jump, triple extend all year to stop for 4 months? So on Mondays, we're going to do some type of weighted jump, some type of hand clean Olympic lift movement. And then we're going to squat, and then we're going to do posterior chain, injury prevention stuff, and get out. That's about 40 minutes. Okay. And what I do during the season is it's about managing volume. They just practiced for 2.5 hours, and they probably sprinted on their hamstrings 60 times per se. So it makes no sense to come in the weight room and do another 50 reps on their hamstrings. So we go heavy. We're probably going 90% of their max, but they got to give me 4 to 5 reps, and we want to stay strong and get stronger. The idea of maintenance or doing a lot of reps, that's kind of by the wayside a little bit because, again, it's just the amount of beating they take. We're not going to put another 30, 40 reps on them. So we're still going to jump. We're going to work on triple extension. Mondays we do sprint work as well. That's we sprint. We do 5, 15, 20-yard sprints. That's it, as fast as they possibly can, full recovery. So that's kind of how we break it up. And on Thursdays or Wednesdays, depending on Friday, Saturday game, we lift again. So it's gotta be something they enjoy. We blast music, we get after it. It can't be some misery or just something they're getting through. So I try to make it as fun as possible. And I explain to them the purpose of it. We're going heavy because of this. It's not just do what I say. It's trying to educate them on the strength and conditioning aspect as well, and have them buy into it.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And I think that short number of reps and at high velocity, high speeds, high explosion can continue to improve. And I think that's one of the things that's really changed dramatically in the philosophy of football coaches. And we've had this guest on a couple of times, guy Tony Holler runs Feed the Cat. Yeah. Tony, I think is really pushing hard to change the way all of us think about speed and explosion and how you can continue to improve it. Because we used to work on developing speed and explosion, and there were guys that you're like, okay, these guys are gonna obviously do well with it. There are other guys that are gonna really struggle with it. But now it's become this thing where it's over long periods of time that you really see massive improvements, and then you're seeing guys that are doing it. In states of Texas, in the South, you're seeing kids run the 100 meters now in under 10 seconds in high school. Everybody has a certain amount of genetics, but that does not happen without long-term development of explosion of speed. And I think it's really, really interesting how that stuff can be continue to be evolved and change over time.
Right.
I think college coaches have to are also starting to adapt that. TCU a couple of years ago when they
Yeah.
got the national championship, they were kind of one of the first ones to kind of adapt what you're talking about now, adapt that to their daily development and speed. There's no more like run gassers to run gassers type of thing.
No.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy, and it's so true. Like I get into an argument with everybody all the time, like, oh, we need to condition after practice, and I'm like, why? Like, shouldn't your practice be so fast paced that you're just doing conditioning just to do conditioning? It's more reps on their hamstrings, and they're like, well, it's toughness. I said, well, let me watch your practice first, and then I'll tell you if you need more toughness. Are they starting behind the line? How many penalties do you have in practice? Are you running from drill to drill? How's your warm up? How's your energy? I think that correlates to toughness more than anything. Obviously, there's some days where the head guy gets mad and you're on the line. I'm going to be quiet, obviously, but that happens. That happens. There's some days where I freak out too. But
and I
at the
think
end of the day,
and football is different with that too. There's kind of a happy medium of you do need some of that grittiness, old school like toughness a little bit, but you need to understand how things work and like how to get the maximum out of each of your players.
Right. Yeah, we need to roll into Saturday fresh and healthy. Like if someone gets hurt in practice because of overuse then that's
the head guy's really going to be pissed then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And I even track the reps, as a coordinator, I track the reps for practice, more so for scheme, but also to see like, Phil ran, for example, this year, Phil ran 12 post routes this week. Like he's probably a little tired coming into Wednesday.
No shit.
Thursday, let's try to limit his reps Thursday. I try to track those things a little bit, especially with some of our high end kids and all of our kids, because the next guy might not be as good. We can't go in with.
You can't afford to have that happen.
No, we can't. So that's kind of the science behind it, and I think a lot of coaches are starting to adapt to that, which is good.
Well, it's funny because if you think back to like how players used to talk. Like in like when I played in '90s when I got to UConn, they used to talk about guys who would be like, they would take off like basically Wednesday or Thursday, and it would be like some of the star players, and then they'd be like, oh man, they perform great, but the coaches are like, these guys don't work, and it's kind of like, okay, now it's those players were doing it individually because they're probably gassed or physically worn out, and they're one of the guys they're relying on. Their bodies weren't feeling right, so they kind of were like limiting their own reps.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you think back to it now, you're like, that's what was going on. Guys that were like, now guys who were not star players just got buried into the crowd. but it's funny because they used to. One of the guys who was like that, I remember the stories of who's coached in college for many years, Lyndon Johnson. And Lynn Johnson's been he's been all over college coaching, and he was one of the guys I used to hear the stories about before I got there at UConn, and he used to do that on his own. He was the left tackle, and he would like kind of come into practice at his flip flops stuff, right? So it was pretty funny because now the coaches really realize that there's like, okay, you got a high day, then you have kind of a recovery day, and then a high day and a recovery day. So you can be high at the game. You can be performing at your highest level. And I think that's so important. It's really, really interesting to see that shift just from when I, started coaching back in the early 2000s. I remember when I was at Saddlebrook, we had these great teams. We used to bury those guys. I mean, we would bury them, man. Like,
hell yeah.
And I think back now, like when we got to the playoff time, we just buried them more, right? And then
you're like, you got to work harder,
right? And Glenrock would keep beating us in the semifinals, and you were like, oh my God, we just must not be working hard enough. Meanwhile, Glenrock was kind of already scaling them off. That was the philosophy. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely it's crazy, and I subtly do it because I'm the most control over it as a coordinator. Like Tuesday being our high CNS day, like we're going to take 1 million reps. We're going to get everything we have to do in. Indy's going to be really hard. Wednesday, it's like, all right, we're going to taper it down. Thursday is more of a run through, and then Friday we go super fast. Friday's like eight 8-10 plays super fast to get them kind of back into that mode, game situations, then Saturday's the game. So I think it's so interesting to see, and talking with a lot of coaches about it, it's super important to, manage that, I think.
No doubt about it. Offensive philosophy, kind of how do you approach what you're doing on offense? And does it dictate based off what your personnel is? What is your kind of approach to it?
Right. Yeah. So first thing is, as I tell people, is that my question is who do we have? What is our personnel? In a perfect world, if I had a choice, we'd be 12 personnel and we'd be running the ball and we'd be running power, digging out the ends. But we don't have that every year. This past year, we didn't have it. Even when we made it to the state finals, that wasn't who we were. So personnel. And the first two pieces of personnel we look at is quarterback. Who's your quarterback? Because everything he goes through him, and then O-line. Those are the two pieces that are dictate what we do on offense. And then from there, my philosophy would be, how do we get the ball to our best player? So if I'm not designing 25 touches to Phil last year, then I am doing a bad job.
Right.
And even if teams take them away, great. Yeah, that does work. And then I would say formations. We try to run a million different formations. We try to run a million different motions. And we're going to go fast. We have to have an edge. Our kids are really smart. So we're going to find the five plays that we love, whether it's our quick game package this year, whether it's our zone read package, whatever it might be, whatever the kids are really good at, we are going to design those plays out of 8,000 formations, funky formations, motions, etc., to get us the best look possible. We run the same plays every week. We just dress them up a little differently. So that's a big thing for me, because defenses, we want to dictate the terms of the defense. We struggled this year when we couldn't dictate the terms. Our playoff game, we couldn't run the ball. We were not efficient on first down. It's not. Look at the teams who won the state champion. Well, Bergen won the state championship past 4 seasons. You know what they did? They ran the ball. All right. So we have to find ways to run the ball at 4 yards a clip. In 2023, we ran the ball 6.5, 7 yards a clip. That's what we averaged. So, I love throwing the ball, but at the end of the day, we got to be able to run the ball. So it's personnel, formations, ability to run the football. Those are the key. Winning the turnover battle, third down, red zone. We got to win those situations to be successful. We got to stay on the field, keep our defense fresh. At the end of the day, everything way I call plays is based around how our defense is playing. If they're struggling, it's like, all right, I gotta control the ball more. I gotta make sure we stay on the field. And that's just talk throughout the week. Hey, you gotta give me this in this situation. Hey, we're gonna be aggressive on fourth down. We gotta stay on the field. So I work really well with our defensive coordinator throughout the week. So that's something that's hugely important. But those are kind of big things that we try to do here. And everything starts up front. The center is the first person that touches the ball in every single play. So if they can't do it, then our offense can't work. We'll find skill players. We'll find guys that, and we value kids who can do multiple things. I don't love changing personnels. I don't love switching kids on off the field. I like going from a tight end wing set, and those kids also being able to be in doubles.
Yeah.
On the same play. And I try to tell
kids,
it
allows you to go faster.
And we go faster, If it's 3 running backs, we put 3 running backs on the field. If next year I'm thinking it's probably 4 wide receivers, and we'll go from there. But so
interesting. That is a when you go to philosophy versus like you guys who have multiple skill sets and being able to keep them on the field allows you to be diverse within what you're doing without changing personnel. And then obviously the other philosophy is specialization of players, right? So player specialization. This guy can do that. This guy can do that. And you're constantly running different guys on the field. But if you got those guys that can do multiple things, it allows the defense not to get a vibe as to what you're going to do, and they can't switch their personnel.
Right. Exactly.
So if you're able to go spread and then go 12 personnel and switch it around, you're able to do those things over and over again. They can't switch out the guys that they need to switch
Correct.
out, and it allows you to do it, which is great, which is really, really, really great.
Yeah.
And like you said, it helps to have those other guys that can, like, if you have 3 running backs and those guys can now split out and be slot players, or you having a tight end that can attach or be detached, right?
Exactly.
Especially with now, not only allows you to, keep those guys on the field and do multiple formations, but like you said, you can go faster, right? You can pick up the pace,
Right.
those types of things.
And a perfect example is this year. We had Brock as our senior running back this year, and we have another kid, 15, Matt Fury, who's also a really good running back, and he did a lot of that. But are we stupid to put him as our 2 running back and just have him sit there all season, or make him learn a slot and be on the field every play? So that's
Right.
kind of what we debate, because is the kid that's going to play slot better than the kid backup running back? No. So let's put the backup running back in a slot and design an offense around him. We're trying to get the best 11 guys on the field. We don't have the luxury of just saying, we'll find, we don't have that depth, which is fine.
Right. Or, hey, we'll go bring in a something, right?
No. So we have to be very conscious.
I mean, we know there's a high school portal, but it ain't like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know.
Well, they don't. Delbarton doesn't allow the use of the high school portal. That school's too good academically. So
the portal's tough over here at Delbarton.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, are you the? Can you? Oh, wait, you can play hockey too. Okay, maybe now we can open this door.
There you go. Yeah.
That's funny. That's That's pro. The sports environment in Delbarton is such a great environment.
It's awesome.
It's one of those things where every sport is really, really good. Is that something that plays into the culture for football as well? Football's unique in that, especially at Delbarton, just because academically and so many guys you have to get in there, which is unique from a sports standpoint. But how does that culture play into everything? With the football program.
Yeah, I think athletics are very important here. About 75% of our students are on an athletic team, and that's a lot. And we know we probably have about 600 odd students. So it's definitely part of the culture, and I think it helps us in some ways. I think we get those multi-sport kids sometimes that's like, listen, we're going to be competitive in football. You're also going to go be competitive in lacrosse or baseball, or if basketball now is making a huge resurgence for us. So I think
it's so good to see.
Yeah, and I think it plays a huge role in just who we are as a school of supporting each other in every single sport. I think it's more fun when you come off a good football season, then you're in the state final for hockey, and then all of a sudden you're going to state final for lacrosse. Like, that is a full experience for the students that we try to bring in. And it helps.
You go watch any wrestler win any match on any night.
Forgot about our wrestling team too. That as well. So it really helps our culture. I think it shows students here that they're going to get taken care of. Incoming students, we support multi-sport athletes. Some schools don't. It's harder, and that's fine. And that's their prerogative. But I try to preach that to incoming students. Like, hey, like, you want to go play 2 other sports? That's fine. Here's your path. This is how we're going to help you here. So I think it just helps us understand how important sports are.
Right. Yeah, and we talk about it all the time, like, because one of the questions that we always get is, like, football is my main sport, but so I'm just gonna, I don't play anything else. I just focus on football. It's like, well, one of the main questions, like, the first thing college coaches ask about is, what other sports do they play? Right? That's go compete, go do these things, right? And then ultimately, well, I don't want to miss out on workouts for football or this. You have that laid out for them,
right?
So they can see that path. So the appeal is still there to go play other sports.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, this is what this is your year. Okay. If you want to do these things, this is what your year looks like. And I would say, some student athletes, like, by the time that they're juniors, they kind of see the writing on the wall and they're like, all right, I'm not going to, our baseball team is really good. I'm not going to be on the baseball team. I might shut it down. I might go do track, and still, the track team is always in the weight room. So it's like, all right, I'm going to do that instead. So, but we support them, and we try to provide them with a path to be the best possible versions of themselves and play other sports if they want to. and it's competitive. It's a competitive environment to be here. It's not easy. No matter what sport you play, it's you are demanded a lot of. But I think that bodes well just who we are as a school too,
and for their futures.
Correct.
Yep. And speaking in that recruiting, which I know you handle a lot of too as well. What that has changed dramatically just in the last couple of years.
Oh,
How many guys are recruiting high school kids, period, because of the portal.
yeah.
They could all say what they want, but the truth is, obviously, they're taking at the higher levels. They're taking less high school kids. They're taking kids moving up, and
Right.
kind of a little bit more of that minor league philosophy in college now, where for good or the bad of that, but that's kind of how it is. So I'll talk about first what kind of you're seeing recruiting wise. And then maybe how you have had to adapt to your what your players need and kind of advising them on it too.
Yeah, I mean, recruiting has changed so much. It's funny, I was telling somebody like, listen, I didn't commit till like the end of January when I was a student, and now now you got to commit in the summer. That was the Patriot League. It's changed a lot. I think if you're going to be an FBS kid, all right, and they offer you a scholarship right away, I would take it. And that's what you want to do, take it. Because it's going to be hard to come by unless you're an elite player. And now it's even with the PWO, sometimes that's a little risky because now with this new scholarship limit, they can just cut you and bring in a scholarship athlete if you don't earn a scholarship. So what I try to
PWO, I don't even know if the PWO at Division I level even makes sense anymore.
I don't think it does.
It's a tough. You're betting on yourself. You're betting on yourself, and it's risky because they owe you nothing. And unfortunately, and it's no. I'm not trying to be mean, not mean, but just talk crap about college coaches. But they owe you nothing. So even if you're on scholarship, I'd say if you get a scholarship to an FBS school, take it. Unless you're an elite player who's going to have 20 of them. For us, you should try and take it, and we try to advise kids that way. There's different types of recruiting. Phil was a little bit easier. He had a lot of offers. He had a lot of different options, so he kind of narrowed it down at the end. Some kids are kind of tweeners, are they Patriot League? Are they Division III? Those are kind of the hardest ones sometimes because we try to tell kids, listen, you can go try and walk on at a Wake Forest, but you can also go play for 4 years at a CAA school or a Patriot League school. And I took the route of I want to play. At the end of the day, I want to play. If I want to go to the NFL, I need film. I need to play. And now it's this whole Division I versus Division III. Listen, that debate to me is the hardest one. Our students are like, I don't want to play Division III. I'm like, why not? That's where you're gonna go. That's
the biggest thing now. They all
it's the whole if you took the numbers off,
and there's less opportunities at Division I.
And now even in the Patriot League, they're like, we're taking transfers. Yeah, they're taking portal guys. I have huge ties to Lafayette. They're like, listen, why should we take a high school kid on the bubble when I can go get a portal kid? Or half their team's transferring. They got it
literally.
I'm always go Division III. It's really good football, especially some of the guys that come and recruit. I mean, half of the playoffs was on the East Coast.
Hell yeah.
So it's just kind of trying to break that mold. And, I think when you come to Delbarton too, your expectation is to go to a high academic school and high level of football. And sometimes you can't get that both ways. We were very, very good last year. We had a lot of good players. I mean, we sent our right tackle to Villanova, and he's basically playing as a freshman, and he could have maybe walked on maybe went to a Western Michigan or a MAC school. And it's no, he wants to play. And I think that's the most important thing that these kids have to understand is do you love to play football or do you not like to play football? So it's hard, and we get scrutinized, I think, sometimes because we're such high academic school, and I think the perception is everyone can afford college here, and that's not the perception at all. So we're trying to break that mold a little bit. We've sent a lot of kids. If you look at our from FBS to FCS to Division III to even some Division II schools, we're all over the place. And I try to tell kids, they'll find you. If you're good enough, they'll come here and find you, and we'll do everything we possibly can to get them here too. So, but it's tough,
especially at a school like Delbarton, where you might have you have that range from FBS to Division III. Even if it's Division III, like it's going to be a high academic Division III, or
Right.
it's going to be an Ivy League. All of these schools come through Delbarton. So if you're here, even if maybe if you're not even a starter here,
Right.
you're still gonna have an opportunity above others.
100%. They understand the league we play in. I think that's just
Huge.
Our film, and no offense to other schools, but our film is going to be higher in my opinion because of just who we're going against. It's like I was talking about one receiver. I'm like, put that film on. That's the corner for Bergen Catholic. Like you're catching the ball against them. Like that matters.
Right.
Coaches know that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
it's like that guy's going to a high level FBS, right? Like you're covering a guy going to Notre Dame. Like this is what we're talking about. You know, like tackling a guy going here, doing all that. The league you play in, the teams you're playing, all of those intangibles, plus all the off the field stuff that's already preparing them for the next level, because that's how you treat it. It just sets them apart already.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly right. So,
yeah, I think the other thing I think is important is that the athletes have to be very proactive in their process. So they can't just sit back and wait on schools to come to them, because you probably want to find out as early as you can what level you are going to be. And that's a combination of what you're doing and what they're doing. And the earlier they can find that out, the quicker they can really kind of get a mental frame as to where they're going to fall. Because that's, I mean, and there are guys that have exceptional, I don't know, they have an exceptional senior year or exceptional junior year, and that's on the radar. And that obviously happens, but it's important for them to do that, because what you said earlier is so true. If they get an offer and they don't jump on that offer, a lot of these guys now are losing those offers, and they have to get out of the mindset that like, I'm the prize. It's not. You're not the prize. That
you're not the prize.
No. We've talked to guys that have had 30 offers that at the end game they were down to like a couple, because people commit. They're not just offering you; they're offering to cover what they need to cover for recruiting from a recruiting standpoint. So you have to make pretty quickly decisions. If that means going up there or whatever you got to do, to make that decision if it's a place you want to be. Because I think what you said is really true. And that's the biggest change, I think, in the last couple of years, that if you get an opportunity, whatever the level is, really, you have to be able to figure out, is this an opportunity I want to take advantage of? And if it is, you can't sit on it, because I think the thing about poo-pooing lower levels, so if you thought you were a Division I guy and you're going FCS, and if you thought you were an FCS guy and now maybe you can't listen. I'm not advocating this, because a lot of schools that your kids go to are very high academics, so for life they're probably better off staying at those schools and not transferring. But as far as from a football standpoint, listen, if you're good enough, that tackle that plays for Villanova, if all of a sudden he really becomes a mega star and he thinks he wants to give up that Villanova education, which I wouldn't advise, but if you want, maybe I don't know, maybe Duke comes in and says, you know what, you get to Duke, maybe he moves on. That opportunity is there, so it's not like when I played, basically whatever level you're at, that's the level you're at, and you're going to have to prove it there. It's not the same anymore. So they're really not pigeonholed as much. So they should not get so upset when it's not the level there, because that's not the end story.
No, exactly. I mean, we had our 2020 class, or 2021, the COVID class, basically, I think they got the short end of the stick in terms of recruiting. And that was probably some of the best talent we've had since last year. A kid like Elijah Hills went to Albany and then he goes to Wisconsin. So it's like, you can go to a CA school, go to a Patriot school. You can always transfer, and it's like, it's not, that's some pretty good football. You're playing Division I football. You're probably getting school paid for you. So you can always transfer out, like go dominate the league and then transfer, if that's really what you want. So it's just interesting. It's scary. I feel bad for the kids now, especially kids who are not like, the Quincy Porters of the world that are just elite. Like those in between kids. Those are the kids that I worry about. Like where they're
Yep.
going to go. And that's always a scary thing. But we try to do our best here with educating our guys, and that's hard sometimes. And that's hard. They're kids. I was a kid once too, and
Yeah.
they don't want to hear tough news, but you got to deliver that tough
No.
news to them. Like, you're a Division III player, and that's just the way it is, and that's okay.
I could tell you because after this podcast, I jump on what's called the Husky Huddle, which is our
Right.
me and some of the UConn alumni. We
Right.
do podcast together, and we help the guys who were collective who we played ball. The guy who's the head of the collective is the guy we played ball with, and we try to help them. If there's a guy that they're looking at or Mora's looking at, and what level. So, listen, we literally go down. We're like, oh, we might need a QB next year. We'll go right to the FCS and look at literally the statistics of the guys that are FCS players and see if they're size-wise, athletic-wise, a possible fit. And guys fire those names off to the recruiting court, because this year, for example, we brought in a guy from Wisconsin who was an NIL guy. Who's a really good player, but he was a dual threat and just kind of didn't. He started out as the starter, but the guy who ended up being the guy was our transfer from Maine, who we paid $0 for.
Yep.
And he's the guy. I mean, he's thrown for 1 million yards.
Yep. Great season for them.
It's not that the other guy isn't good. It's that this guy was a better fit and was able to work better in the offense for this year. It doesn't mean next year that'll be that way. But so there's a lot to it. Like there's a guy that came from FCS that beat out a guy that played at FBS, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going on all over the place, and that's it's hard for parents to understand that. Maybe that might be my final question because it's probably the hardest. How do you kind of educate parents because they listen, I'm as a parent I probably am the same way. All parents are. How do you educate them as to what you think might be best for their kid?
Yeah, the parents, it's always the hardest with them. I think, you have a relationship with the athlete and you can they trust you and they understand they're in this world, but the parents sometimes don't. It's not because of their fault, but it's just, they're not involved with the world. So what we try to tell parents is, listen, this is, and Coach Bowers and our defense core do a lot of the parent relationship stuff with this. But what we try to do is just lay out the recruiting landscape. This is how you get recruited first. So these are the process. You get film, you send film, da. All right. But, understand the pressures. If you want to go to an FBS school, all right, just understand that this is what you're competing with. You're not just competing with the nation in terms of high schoolers, you're also competing with the transfer portal now. And they're going to look at transfer portal guys that they can rent for 2 years first before they look at your son. All right. So that's kind of the landscape that we try to educate them on now and just understand that. So we try to say, listen, if an FCS or comes around and you want to do that, jump on it, take it, be done. All right. But also here's Division III, and we try to list all the Division III schools. Johns Hopkins, for one, they're still playing. They're in the semifinals right now. Plenty of our kids get looked at by them. So that's super important. And we just try to. Every year's different too. Last year, some guys got all these offers from, Patriot League, CAA, even FBS schools. This year, a little different. We don't know why. It could be, we didn't make it to the state final. Who knows? It could be because, they took X amount of players. They had a bad season, coaching change. So there's just so many more external factors than there were when I was in high school, which just like, all right, you're not tall enough. That's why you're not going to FBS. Okay, cool. I'm going to Lafayette. It's like, that was it. Now it's like, no, they just took 4 transfers, NIL money, PWO. Oh, wait, they want 8,000 scholarships. That's just what it is now. And it's just something we got to work through and deal with and try to educate our parents on as much as possible. So it's tough.
And it's trends, Deion succeeds at Colorado, bringing in all portal guys. And now the next 5 college coaches, Division I, do the same thing, right?
Yep.
It's a copycat league. And then, you look and there are guys that didn't take that many portal people like Clemson and obviously Army, Navy don't, and they succeeded.
Right.
So, kids are going to also have to start to look at like what kind of program is a better fit for me, because there's some places that are going to be heavy to who they're bringing. Like you could go somewhere even as like out of high school,
Right.
And by the way, my sound is driving me crazy today. I don't know what's going on, but so you could get recruited. You could, as a high school kid, and go to a place where they bring in a lot of transfers, and then you could be in a case where you're ready to start, and they bring in another guy. So you have to know that philosophy behind the program too, right? Like,
and I think that's hard. That's really hard for the high school guys too, because look, like, we've all been a part of it. We were all recruited. Everybody loves to be told how good they are, right? And like they like that recruiting process, and it's great. And now that's awesome. But once you get to college, everybody was that guy, buddy. And now you have to get to that next level. And whether you can or can't, a lot of those guys, rather than kind of grit it out and fight for a little bit, would rather just – they think they're going to hop in that portal and it's going to be like a repeat of that recruiting process of, hey, you were great. Hey, you were this. Hey, you were that. And the grass isn't always greener. I mean, you're talking about 6,000 dudes in the portal right now.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. And I think that's where kids struggle the most, is they're an all-star, all-state player from New Jersey. They go to college and don't see the field. And it's like, what did I do wrong? Like, nothing.
You're like,
there's better kids out there, like you don't know what you don't know. And we had a kid, went to Elon, was going to transfer his sophomore year, and we're like, don't transfer. Your film's not good enough. Had an amazing junior season, and now has 20 plus offers in the transfer portal, from FBS schools. Talking to our former player who went to Wake Forest about him, who's coaches now, the other day. It's like, I would take him. And that's his path. That's not everybody's path. So, but you need film. Like, you need film. It doesn't matter if you're Division 3, 2, 1, whatever. You need film, or you can't. You need stats. You need to dominate the league you're in, whatever that level is. And I think that's what we try to preach to our kids. Like, listen, go to a place where you're going to play for 4 years, not sit on the bench, but have an opportunity to play. So.
Right, because there's nothing worse than working, and then just continuing to sit. Like,
the bench is boring.
Especially playing college.
It's the worst.
Boring. So boring.
It's boring. It forces you into drinking during the week.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
I've had some friends. It was funny. My freshman year, I was starting college. They're like out partying, and I'm like, I got a game in 3 days, guys. I got to go to bed. Like, I would not have blasted through college if I didn't play football or play.
No. Get on the field is way better.
Right.
Way better.
Yeah.
So much better. Well, Coach, it's been great having you on. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Really, you guys have tremendous success, tremendous program.
Yeah,
tremendous
thank you.
School, maybe one day if you're still there, a few more years, my son can come up and visit you guys. So
anytime. Anytime.
See, Derek, I had to sign it in. Delbarton.
This is where we're at now. Everybody that comes on is going to be like, here we go. Like, he's 10, by the way. He's a hell of a player, but he's 10, and he is a multi-sport guy. And he plays and he's in the orchestra or what else the hell he does. I don't freaking know. Kid's doing everything.
Transcripts are good, Coach. Transcripts are good.
High-level kid, guys. Here we go now.
In 4 more years, we're going to get on the phone with you.
All right, that's fine.
Listen, I hope they provide housing, because that's a hell of a commute from down here in Middletown. Just saying.
We have a bus. We got buses.
I know. Don't worry, Coach. We know. Coach, thanks for taking the time, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. This was great. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks so much. Appreciate
Have a good day, man.
Have a great day.
All right. See you guys.
That was great. Oh, man. Now I'm working on my next step is to work on the outro, which I haven't done yet. And for the podcast, and I'll have that. That'll be a short one. But that was really good. Real good. Good insight.
I never like, Delbarton's always that like outlier, I guess, that everybody really kind of doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, they understand it's this, but they were good. You know what I mean? Like they've gotten better and highly improved. And it's like, what is it all about? And to just get, Bowers, nobody realizes that Brian Bowers has been there forever, dude. Like forever. Like before he was the head coach, he was the OC and all this other stuff. Like he's been that guy through this transition to the new league and all that stuff. But then, you know, when I saw that he played there and then came back, you know, plus $23 million weight room is not bad. You know, I look, and I always love Delbarton. It's an all boys school. It's everything. Like, you know what I mean? It's so culture in the terms of like focus on sports, and every team is really good. They all support each other and whatnot. And, you know, because they're just different in that way. A lot of people kind of like, you know, shun them or whatever, but you know, they can play ball with the best of people and they do it the right way. You know, like you said, like he can't just go out and get whoever. That's not fair. They're going to struggle in every facet. So
I'm waiting for the day that one of the programs in New Jersey just takes the Nestea plunge and just builds a gigantic Texas style facility.
Like who's going to get a true indoor
or a true stadium? That would be cool. I think it would have to be a place probably outside of. Well, look. Hinchcliffe is a true stadium.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, you could do like one of those, like if anybody has the most things, it's probably like St. Peter's.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, they have the Jersey City facility, right?
You know, I mean, even with that,
money. Delbarton has the money, but they wouldn't be. I don't know if they would get enough.
I mean, to be honest, in my experiences, like Mount Olive has the closest thing to it.
Yes, but doesn't go all the way around.
But in Jersey, I don't know who's going to do that.
I think
you know, unless you get a place that's willing to get like they do in Texas.
Put everything in there. You put your field house in there. You put your gym in there. You put your classrooms in there.
Or you get some place that's like, look,
Texas does it.
We're all gonna like. We're all 5 towns. We're going to contribute, and boom, here's what we're doing.
Oh yeah, like the ISD, right.
That would be more of like a stadium only, right? Because now you're not.
So like in Round Rock has a in Texas, which is outside of Austin. They have one of those really nice stadiums, and I think like what you said, 4 or 5 high schools play in it.
Yeah,
but. Obviously, if you go up to North Dallas, they have their own stadiums, and the way
Correct.
they did it was obviously like $40-50 million. But what they do is they build in classrooms, phys ed program, all into like the stadium, field house, because the field house.
Yeah. I mean, look, the
guy that do it. It's
the one I follow in Texas. Right, the coach I follow in Texas, like that's all built in. Like their football stadium houses, like then on the other side it has their indoor, and then it has the weight room, it has classrooms, and then like if you go around the the other side of the building is, you know, like the softball stadium is built off of it, and all the suites are within the, you know, like the building itself, so that everything kind of centers around it. I don't know. It's just the way you have to figure out how to do it to make everybody happy about it, right? Like
Tom's River, you could build one and have everybody play in it.
Have everybody play there. Yeah. Like you'd have to get a bigger group of something. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Middletown, you could do it. Build one, but they'll never give it up. They'll never give it up.
I mean, you would think like a Wayne Hills, right? Like that's the way I think. Like, but some of these people think that like the private schools, like a Bergen, like a Bosco, like when I went into Bosco, that weight room was nothing. Like it was a classroom, right? Like, so some of these schools that everybody looks at as the really good football schools, like yes, they get money and whatnot, and the players go there and they pay, but that money is like for other stuff. Like they don't exactly have the best facilities and whatnot of everything. You know what I mean? Just because they're good at the team is good doesn't mean that everything that surrounds it's good.
No, you're right.
I mean, hell, Union City has the best setup of anybody. Like shit, just play on a roof.
That's okay. So that's an example of actually a true stadium utilizing your own facility.
Like every literal like inch of space we have.
That stadium, Mount Olive Stadium, Hinchcliffe Stadium,
and I don't even know like who plays at Hinchcliffe on the regular. Like, is it East Side?
East Side and I think East Side and Kennedy.
And Kennedy, both.
I would guess.
I mean, look, I will tell you another one. If you go to Newark, where Barringer plays is a phenomenal place.
Stadium. Yeah.
Like walking into that thing, you feel like you're walking into like they got the arches and whatnot, like that. That's a different, you know what I mean? But I think it's just hard in Jersey because there's not much room, like space. Like, you know, you don't have like there's not ample area,
and yeah,
you don't have acreage.
No, you're right. You're right. Well,
I mean, shit, Saddlebrook is on the backside of a highway.
Saddlebrook is on the backside of a highway. Yes, you're right.
Like if it wasn't for that wall, dude, Route 80 is right there.
I don't know what the name of the stadium is now. It used to be called, when I was there, it used to be called Roy P. Burt Stadium, but I don't know what it is. It might be something else now. I know the track.
It's not Dave Schuman Stadium.
The track is called Howard Schuman track. I know that.
But they won't give you the stadium name, huh?
Who?
You.
I coached there 2 years. How can
I was hoping Palisades Park was going to name the stadium after you.
There is the stadium for Palisades Park is a county stadium. It's not.
Yeah, it's what is it? Overpeck.
Yeah, that's county.
They still play at Overpeck?
They still play at Overpeck. Overpeck was a great stadium.
That's where we played our Bosco Bergen game.
Yeah, that was when you guys would play there. That was my favorite part because you bring in a temporary stand.
Going in the bleachers in the end zones, and then you would have them in the end zones for your game.
I'm like, it's gonna be packed.
And that was your year too, because that was 2012. So that was the year.
The 2 years that they did it was 2012, 2013, and that's when we had our good team. There would be now I don't know why people sat there, but there were people that actually sat in those end zone seats because they wanted that view or whatever. So there were you'd see
like 20 tight shot.
Yeah, 20 or 30 people would be sitting in there every game. I maybe it's easy.
Now I do know some places that will do that, right? They'll bring in the bleachers in the end zone to kind of create that stadium atmosphere, right? Without the actual physical, But
it is cool when the stadium closes out, dude. It looks
so cool, dude.
It looks cool.
Like that's why I like playing at Butler because they had the hill that made it almost like a semi-stadium-ish because there was a hill all the way around, and people would, oh hell yeah, like you got a big game like Thanksgiving Day or the playoff game when we played Coach Nymphius. Like, I mean, dude, it was packed house.
That's awesome. All right, let's roll. Let's be off. Somehow I'm sick.